Hello, welcome to our movie review for Venom. My name is Sam, this is my friend Ben.
Ben?
Now we've got that out of the way, let's get right into it. Speaking for myself, I really did not have high expectations going into this movie. The first trailer, understandably, didn't really show a lot because it seemed like they released it just right after they wrapped filming.
Yeah.
There'll be a non-spoiler half and a spoiler half to this review. What were your thoughts on the movie, Ben? What did you think?
Relating to like the crowd, I think the crowd's important for this movie because like there were a lot of scenes that were supposed to be funny that I think the crowd laughed at, but there was also a lot of like unintentionally funny scenes that the crowd also laughed at. And I think that made it kind of difficult for me to tell like if it was supposed to be funny or if it was just the crowd laughing because it was bad.
That was definitely an issue for me as well because this movie is just weird. Like, I guess, like, getting right into it, there's parts of this movie that work. This movie is not, I don't think, as bad as people have made it out to be.
Yeah.
It's not, like, I think it's at, like, a 28 or a 29 on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah.
There's a lot, that being said, there's a lot that's wrong with this movie. And I feel like, once again, Sony's probably the one to blame for this. But right now it's kind of hard to tell because nothing about the making of the movie or who had, ultimate creative decisions has come out yet.
Yeah.
I feel like the further removed we get from this movie, the more that will come to light.
I think probably the biggest problem I had with the film and the thing that I thought was most noticeable was I thought it was very tonally like inconsistent because I always thought of Venom as almost like a horror sort of character. Like I always thought he was kind of scary.
Yeah.
And I always imagined that Eddie Brock's experiences with the symbiote were scary to him. But then there was a lot of humor in the film that I personally did not like. I think a lot of the humor didn't work. And the thing that really threw me off was that not only was it Eddie Brock like making jokes, which I understood. I mean that makes him sort of more relatable, like an everyday person. But it seemed like Venom was also like the symbiote was also kind of like making quips and stuff, and the combination of those two being comedic made it worse for me.
Yeah.
Because like I would have been okay with just one of them being funny and then the other one kind of being a little more serious, like because they're dealing with a lot of serious things in the film. But there was a lot of humor that took away some of like the drama of the film.
Yeah, I mean for me, like, and we were talking about this after we saw the film, it's been a couple days since we've seen it, we've had time to mull over our thoughts. Watching this movie, like the first 20 to 30 minutes, I'd say, there wasn't anything that I thought was like completely terrible about it. Like there wasn't anything that was like, oh God, like this is where it's gonna start to go downhill. But then around like that 30-minute mark, it's like thing after thing after thing is just like, and you're like, oh God, here we go. And to be fair, there are scenes that sort of kind of got it back in a good direction, but it was never like a complete course correction from that point. And like this movie takes a hard turn toward like comedy, and it's not supposed to be funny. I don't think that completely ruined the movie for me, but there's a lot of aspects of this movie that I think just don't need to be here that are.
Yeah.
So getting into the plot, well, since you guys know, Marvel Studios owns Spider-Man. In the comics, Spider-Man is Spider-Man has a very important role to play in how Venom, as we know him, comes to be. And since Sony doesn't have access to Spider-Man at this juncture, there's no incorporation of Spider-Man into the narrative of this movie. So, sorry if you were expecting Spider-Man, he's not in it.
No.
Wasn't really expecting him to show up, and I'm kind of glad that he didn't. But basically what happens is the symbiotes have been retrieved by a shuttle owned by the Life Foundation, and the shuttle crashes to Earth, and one of like five-ish, four or five-ish symbiotes escapes. The rest are taken back to the Life Foundation. The Life Foundation, of course, is operated by Carlton Drake, played by Riz Ahmed. One of the biggest problems with this movie for me, or not like, it's not a big problem, but a lot of things about this movie like just don't make, like, they make sense, but they're very unclear. Because I never knew quite what like the number of symbiotes was we were dealing with, because there's Venom, there's Riot, then there's, I would say there's at least 2 or 3 or 4 other symbiotes.
Yeah, and like some
and
of
like
them
they imply that some of them died.
Yeah, died like off screen.
Yeah,
like
died off screen
because
like you see like it just kind of looks like a bunch of like goop, and it's like that's supposed
to
be a
symbiote.
Anymore. Yeah. So that was kind of unclear to me exactly how many symbiotes we were dealing with total. Like the 2 main ones obviously are Carnage. Sorry, gotta wait for that part. Venom and Riot. And Riot comes into play. Riot's actually the first one that comes into play because
he's the one that escapes.
Yeah,
from the shuttle,
he escapes, and throughout the course of the movie, before he gets to Riz Ahmed's character Carlton Drake, he is like jumping from host to host to host, and eventually gets to Carlton Drake. The way that happened was really stupid. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I agree.
But essentially, then we get this opening scene with the symbiotes being taken to the Life Foundation. You see Riot escape, and then we cut to a scene of Eddie Brock at his San Francisco home with his girlfriend Annie. I think her name was Annie. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's played by Michelle Williams, and she. Like, none of the actors are bad in this movie, but like some of them just didn't need to be here, and unfortunately Michelle Williams' character is one of them. I don't know how you feel about this, but like with Deadpool 2 this year and now this movie, I don't understand why every movie we need to have love interests to make these characters relatable.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Deadpool 2 went the route that it did.
Got rid of Vanessa.
With Wade and Vanessa's relationship, exactly. And then in this movie, I wasn't invested in it. I think Michelle Williams and Tom Hardy are both great in terms of their acting capability.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they had like the worst chemistry. I wouldn't say there's like a lot of chemistry there. So because of that, you never really are invested in their relationship, and thankfully you don't really have to be invested in it for that long. But every time her character was on screen, I just felt like anything involving her sort of took away from the better parts of the movie.
I agree.
But they're living together, and she's working as a lawyer she's working on a case that involves the Life Foundation. Eddie Brock has his own show. He's a reporter. I don't think they ever say what network he works at. He works at some network that funds his show and gets some stories. But Eddie is sent on an assignment to interview Carlton Drake at the Life Foundation, and Eddie has like he has a bad vibe about Carlton Drake, and you understand later why he has the bad feelings about Carlton Drake, but like in the beginning when he's like, yeah, I don't like him, it's like, what do we?
Yeah, what's he basing that
on?
Yeah,
what's your basis for that information? So Eddie's gonna go interview him. He then goes out on a date with Annie, and they're talking about Carlton Drake and how Eddie needs to sort of be professional and not sort of badger him into questions about things that he might not want to talk about, because Eddie really needs his job after an incident happened in another news, I think the Daily Globe or something like that.
Yeah, in New York.
He got run out of New York, which is their version of the Spider-Man origin, which really plays no role into how he became Venom, but
yeah.
he goes to interview Carlton Drake and things go awry. He starts questioning him about things he shouldn't have knowledge of but does through Annie. He sees an email that's sent her that contains these confidential documents that talk about how people have been killed in trials at the Life Foundation, and Eddie questions him about that. This is in the trailer, so I don't really consider this.
Yeah, it's not like a spoiler.
How he gets this information is kind of spoilery, but like,
it's not
do you really care about these details of this movie?
Isn't the important stuff.
This isn't the important part of this movie by any means. So he is then fired from his job, and because I don't know how I guess they assume that he found this out from the
Annie.
files that Annie had in that email. So she's fired from her job, and she gives Eddie her engagement ring back, and then they're done. Their relationship ends.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that I don't give a single fuck about any of it.
It's
like,
it was.
I liked it, but like I didn't care about their relationship because again, it's like we had like 2 scenes with them
together,
and then it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be really sad. Like I just wasn't, like I don't care, and that wasn't what I was going to this movie for anyway. But like, if you're gonna include this in a movie at all, I feel like it's your job to make us care, and I just didn't.
Well, like Annie, I almost thought she wasn't even really a character. Like at least Eddie, we sort of saw changes in him, but she was just kind of there.
She just was like someone to like just. It felt like she didn't need to be involved in the story beyond that point. Like honestly, if she had not been in the movie at all from that point,
after like
I honestly might have felt worse for her.
because
I feel like that might have worked better because it's like, but she gets sucked back into this movie in ways that just ultimately don't make sense. But continuing on, so then like 6 months go by and Eddie's moved from his nice house with Annie to a shitty apartment. He is trying to find work. He's just going to the bar and getting drunk. And eventually he's contacted by... He's not even contacted. I don't know how she found him.
The scientist lady?
What was her name?
Jenny Slate?
We're just going to call her Jenny Slate.
The actress is Jenny Slate.
The actress's name is Jenny Slate. You know her from Parks and Rec. She's been in plenty of great shows. I enjoy her, and I was concerned about her character in this movie because it seemed like she was definitely, if you go based off her previous work, you sort of figured she would be some sort of comedic relief.
Yeah.
I actually really didn't mind her character. I didn't think her character like made the movie significantly better, but she didn't detract from it. And one thing, Sony, if you're listening, this was good. You did good here. In the trailer, she mispronounces symbiote. She says like symbiote.
Yeah, she calls
And I remember
something.
you and I were talking about this when that first trailer came out. I was like, this is so stupid.
It was terrible, yeah.
It sounds terrible. They fixed it in the movie. Good job, Sony.
Yeah, they
Brownie
fixed it.
points for you. That's probably about all you're going to get. But she comes to Eddie because Carlton Drake has been experimenting with the symbiotes on animals, and he wants to progress to human trials, which... Jenny Slate's character, it's like Dr. Skirth or something.
Yeah, someone with like SK.
Yeah. I'm going to call her Dr. Skirth. I don't care if it's wrong. She expresses her concerns about this to Carlton, and he doesn't care. And that's one major thing. I have a lot of problems with Carlton Drake's character in this movie. I like Riz Ahmed. I don't think any of this was his fault. I just think the way a lot of the characters are written in this movie is the biggest problem. Carlton Drake is like, it's like he sees these like bad things happen to people, and he's like, just keep going. Yeah, like this symbiote just killed that guy. Just get the next one in here. Let's keep going. Like,
yeah.
And like, I get it. It's a movie. Like, we need to progress the narrative, but like, the fact that there was like no caution, even like momentary caution to anything he did, just wasn't. I didn't buy it. Like, you feel like you would have had a little bit more restraint. And then, ironically, I feel like Eddie is the exact opposite, but almost to an extreme that doesn't work, and we'll get into that soon. But, so Dr. Skirth contacts Eddie. She finds Eddie at like the convenience store he always shops at, which is
Yeah, I don't know how she found him.
I don't know how she knew that was where to find him, but I mean I guess
Yeah.
Life Foundation's got a lot of resources, I suppose. So she finds him, and she tells him what's going on, and he's like, I don't care, leave me alone. And he like walks off, and I guess like this next part was sort of what got like, he's like on like the Brooklyn or the Golden Gate Bridge. He's looking at the Life Foundation. The Life Foundation building looks very reminiscent of Tony Stark's house, his Malibu house in the Iron Man trilogy. I thought that was a little strange.
It was dumb. I think it was too similar.
Yeah. And he says, "Okay, I'm in," and they go to the Life Foundation to sort of gather evidence, and something happens where Dr. Skirth has to like distract a security guard so Eddie can get in. And she says, "Okay, just wait here." And like, of course, he's not going to wait there. He goes running through the halls, and he finds all these people who are being experimented on, and he finds a homeless woman that he recognizes because she was kind of I don't know what you'd say. She hung out. She was a friend of his, and she hung out outside this convenience store
that he always went to.
And she had volunteered to undergo these experiments, I guess, to get paid.
Yeah, she needed money.
And she starts like having fits of, and Eddie like tries to break into the cell, and of course he breaks in, and immediately she yaks she just yaks the symbiote into him, and that is how Eddie gets the symbiote. I'm not going to go too much longer with the plot because I feel like I've wasted a bunch of time talking about the stuff that doesn't matter, basically the setup. I feel like this was around the time where it started to get weird for me. Like this was the last scene
when he first gets infected.
Because it's around this time that like some of the more unintentionally funny stuff starts coming into play. But I'll go back to our thoughts. I said, I don't think this movie is as bad as people make it out to be. But I think if you're gonna go see it, I think if you're a fan of Venom, go see it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One thing I really don't like that a lot of people in the media have been going on about is like, oh well, the Topher Grace Venom movie has a 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't a Topher Grace Venom movie, it was Spider-Man 3. This movie, I'm going to say it, Spider-Man 3 as a film is better than this movie.
I'd agree. I think
as
casting-wise, and as a whole unified thing.
Spider-Man 3 is definitely better than Venom. The Venom character in Venom is far superior to anything Topher Grace did in the role. I don't even blame Topher Grace, I just don't think he was the right casting choice for that part. If you enjoy Venom, if you're a fan of the character, I would go see the movie. I think it's worth your while. I would like to see a sequel, especially given what we got in the post-credit scene, which we'll get into in the spoiler section. I think it's worth your time.
Well, this is like the best version of the character in the film.
Movie.
So
it's far superior to the Topher Grace Venom. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
For me, but you have to have reasonable expectations for this movie. There is stuff in this movie that's bad and does not work and is stupid and silly. That being said, there are parts of this movie where I was like, "This is awesome," and I enjoyed watching it at times. Everything with him as Venom, when he has full control of the suit, the symbiote, and it comes alive and he is Venom, is awesome. The banter that they share when he's like in his mind and only Eddie can hear him, a lot of that is really good as well. So I like that dynamic a lot. But I feel like at a certain point it should have just become the struggle of Eddie and Venom to survive being hunted by Carlton Drake's henchmen, but they kept dragging in Annie, and
she came
in the
back.
6 months since she's broken up with Eddie, she's got a boyfriend who's a doctor, and
he's a part of the story.
He's a part of the story. He's a crucial aspect of the story. He's not. He shouldn't have been in the
No.
movie. But there's fun to be had here. Like, if you have reasonable expectations, you're going to enjoy this movie. So let's get into the characters a little bit, and I feel like I've already gotten into most of the parts of everyone. I'm going to get into, like, performances.
Sure.
Like I said before, none of the performances in this movie are bad. I think all the actors really dedicated themselves to the part they were playing.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy, thank God he was in this movie, because I feel like if it had just been like a less qualified actor, if they had gone with if they had gone with like a no-name actor that no one knew about, I think this movie would have been wholly horrendous.
I think Tom Hardy sold the movie to a lot of people.
I believe that as well. I think
it
that's
gave it
definitely
credibility.
True. Because like I've talked to friends. I have a friend that's a huge fan of. I have a lot of friends that are Tom Hardy fans, and people were worried. They're like, yeah, I'm not even sure he sells me on this movie, but he did a good job. He was definitely him, and the Venom relationship that he has as Eddie. Those are the best parts of this movie.
I agree.
That being said, there are a lot of scenes where he really goes for it in some situations that are just ridiculous, and they're not. The thing that's weird about this movie is it's hard to tell at times if something was meant to be funny and if something is just like that bad.
Yeah, bad.
Like I think there's
laugh.
clear-cut examples of instances of both where okay, this is supposed to be funny, this wasn't supposed to be, this was just bad. But I feel like there's a lot of stuff in like the gray area where it's
in
like
between.
I don't know. Like, I feel like if you asked some people who worked on the film, they'd be like, "Oh yeah," and they might just be bullshitting to make themselves look better.
Well, it's like Tommy Wiseau in The Room. Like when he
Yeah.
just told everyone that it was a comedy, even though he did not intend it to be a comedy.
To be that way. Exactly. That's a great comparison. Riz Ahmed, as I said, plays Carlton Drake. It wasn't his fault. I didn't think he gave a bad performance. Just the way he was written, he was just blah. And
It's very like generic.
And like, to be honest, like, people are bashing this movie because it's got a generic plot and cookie cutter villain. The plot, I don't think the plot was that good. This movie does not have a good plot. The villain thing, like, I think he's worse than a lot of like the not so great Marvel villains, but like, is this something like we really haven't seen before in a bunch of other superhero movies?
A lot of the MCU movies don't have great villains, so this it's not terrible.
It's not terrible. I feel like he's fine.
Yeah, I think
they could have done
the best.
better.
Yeah.
That being said, like, some of the dialogue in this movie, like there's a couple scenes where Carlton Draker is like, "Hey, did you see this thing just happened? This thing just happened. Did you see that?" And it's like,
he repeats himself.
are you like trying to like
over
wake
and
up
over
like,
again.
"Hey audience, if you fall asleep, I'm gonna repeat this a couple
This is
times
important.
for you."
Remember this.
So yeah, I wasn't a fan. And it's funny, like I defend Riz Ahmed a lot. I think he's a very talented actor. I think he's a great guy. It seems like it anyway. Between this and Rogue One, I'm not terribly impressed with like any roles he's had. I think he's a good actor. I don't think he's a bad actor, but I need to watch that HBO show he's on to get this terrible Carlton Drake taste out of my mouth.
Well, and I think he set the bar really high with like Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time I'd ever seen him, and he gave a really good performance in that. I think since that, in at least the movies I've seen of his, he hasn't been as compelling as he was back then.
That's true. And then rounding it out, Michelle Williams is like the other main character in this movie.
Yeah.
She's not bad. I just don't think her character was necessary in this movie. I feel like in the beginning, I think that worked. And I honestly think you could have had any actress play that role.
I agree.
And I think you could have gotten the same point across that, okay, Eddie had a life. Because in the comics, he loses everything.
Yeah.
He loses his wife, he loses his family.
I
feel like that was one aspect of the origin you wouldn't have had a problem keeping.
Yeah.
If he had lost his girlfriend or his fiance and never seen her again because of what happened,
for good,
that would have, I think, been fine. And then you don't have to have like this constant, because like once the Venom stuff starts happening, you're like, okay, like yes, like let's go. Like you could forgive anything about the movie, and I didn't think anything that happened before it was particularly bad, but you're like, okay, let's get going. But then
Yeah,
like,
go.
it keeps like, okay, like we had a Venom scene, Michelle Williams come back, and it's like, why? We just don't need, like, she didn't need to be in the movie. It should have just been a Venom movie for like the last hour and 20 minutes. That's all it should have been.
Yeah. Oh, I think it would have added more emotional weight too. Like if she just never returned, like that's more emotion.
I think it would have been more
Eddie
impactful.
would have had to face. Yeah.
Because it wasn't that impactful when you see her again. Like, I mean,
well, and you see her, like 10 minutes later,
she pops
you see
back
her
up
again.
and it's like, okay, like, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna move into the action scenes in this movie. We'll get into a little bit of what the symbiotes, their personality. You get a good feel for like Venom's personality in this movie as not as the character Venom, but like just the symbiote of Venom.
Yeah.
There's a lot of back and forth between him and Tom Hardy or Eddie.
Yeah.
And that is the strong point of the movie. There's some good comedy there. They have a good connection. I enjoyed that part of the movie a lot.
Well, I think that really is what made this movie, like what made it unique compared to a lot of other like superhero films, because it's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like sort of like a Hulk sort of scenario, but not
if the Hulk was like constantly talking
talking to Bruce. But I think that was the aspect that I think
I feel like the Hulk dynamic is probably like that, but they just haven't vocalized that in the movie. So the Jekyll Hyde comparison is a great analogy. So you find out like Venom sort of provides Eddie with some context of like why the symbiotes are here. Kinda, not really. You really don't know. Like it's weird to me because it was like the symbiotes. The life shuttle crashed into like a meteor or found a meteor.
Yeah, that had the
symbiotes on it. But then there's like this whole thing where it's like the symbiotes were like coming to Earth and they want to destroy the Earth. You don't really know why, they just do. That like you're not supposed to read into it too much, but like it would be nice if it made like it had some sort of context.
Sure.
But yeah, from the moment like the Venom suit takes over, all like that action scene was awesome.
Yeah.
There's a great scene. You get to see a scene of him climbing up a building and he perches on top of it. He pretty much did the Spider-Man pose. That was cool.
It was still cool,
that.
Yeah. Like
it was awesome.
It was a cool scene.
And the CG in this movie, there's definitely some instances where the CG doesn't look the greatest, but I wouldn't like call it a huge criticism. It's not like Henry Cavill's mustache in Justice League. It's not, like I feel like calling like the Henry Cavill mustache thing I get, but I feel like railing on these movies for their CG. Like I think Thor Ragnarok, for as gorgeous of a film as that is, has some bad CG moments in it. There's some scenes where you can tell it's noticeable because the CG doesn't look good, the lighting doesn't look right.
Yeah.
The CG for Venom doesn't look. For Venom himself, he looks great.
I think they did a great job. Most of the film, he never looked
that was
really
never
bad.
an issue. Now there's scenes where they explore the idea that Venom is what's the word? He's vulnerable to high frequency sound.
Yeah, that's
and there's
his
like scenes where the symbiote is inside him, and you see Tom Hardy, and he's just kind of like vibrating. That looked weird, and it didn't look quite right. There's instances where the CGI is kind of bad. I wouldn't say it took away from the movie for me at all.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't that bad. So, yeah. If you're going to this movie to see some good old Venom action, you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
Not a ton of it, but it's there, and it makes the movie.
Yeah.
Now talking about Riot, as I said in the beginning, Riot moves from host to host as he sort of finds his way toward the other symbiotes. He needs Venom for some reason. Did we ever find out why? Mm-hmm. There's just like some sort of thing that he needs Venom because he wants to like, I think, go back to whatever planet they come from and get more symbiotes so they can take over the Earth. and Venom is determined to stop him. But the thing that's like interesting is like Venom explains to Eddie that like we need to stop Riot. I don't remember why initially he wanted to stop Riot, because it was like when he talks to him after like the first fight and they swim away.
Yeah.
He had like some reason that I don't remember.
Yeah.
But then he has like a change of heart later and he's like, oh, I like Earth. And
yeah, he kind of like does a 180 where he's like, oh, I want to protect Earth.
yeah.
Riot doesn't, so now Riot is Venom's
So
enemy.
they form an alliance to stop Venom, because in the beginning they're kind of going back and forth in terms of
Yeah, Eddie
not
and
even
Venom
like
don't
who
even
has
get
control,
along.
but like yeah, they don't get along.
They're not on the same page.
Yeah, so it leads to a final, like the movie leads to a final confrontation between Riot and Venom, which was good and I enjoyed it up until they get to, you see in the trailer there's like a scene where they rip into like each other's symbiotes and you see them like looking
You
there
see
and
the
they're looking at each
humans,
other.
yeah, looking at
They
each
started doing like a lot of that, and that was where I was kind of like, okay, not so much on the action.
It reminded, that scene reminded me a little bit of like the final fight scene in The Wolverine, when he's fighting like that robot samurai guy, where the CG just does not look good. And then they use like slow motion during these CG scenes, so like if you look, you notice
looks even worse.
It looks even worse because you're focusing on it because it's slow
Yeah.
motion.
I have a couple criticisms with the action. The first scene where the symbiote is used, the scene in the trailer where the symbiote is like defending Eddie, but he's not Venom, was very reminiscent of a movie that came out earlier this year called Upgrade. I was talking to a friend of mine about this earlier, a different friend, and he said that scene completely reminded him of the scene in Upgrade where the main character is fighting with the help of the AI and he's like reacting to all this crazy shit he's doing. It felt very derivative of that. I'm not sure if there's any correlation, but I feel like someone had to take that idea from somebody else.
Yeah.
I think the scene was much better in Upgrade, so I kind of like to think it was Venom that took it, but I don't know. The other thing is, in the fight scene between Riot and Venom, before that scene happens, there's a rendezvous between Annie and Eddie because Annie and her now doctor boyfriend help Eddie out after he shows up at a restaurant where they're having lunch and causes a scene. I'm veering off track a little bit. This is the one scene in the movie that was as bad, if not worse, than the scene in Spider-Man 3 where, Peter's
Doing his dance,
he's
yeah.
doing his dance and, pelvic thrusting at everyone.
I'd say this is equivalent.
It was equivalent, and I think it was arguably worse.
Oh yeah.
It was so just random,
Very
and
out of
bizarre,
place.
and how did he find them?
Yeah, how did he
don't
know which
understand how he
restaurant
knew they were
Annie
there.
and her new boyfriend were at?
But Eddie is taken to the hospital. He's given a CAT scan, and of course it fucks with him.
The sound messes with Venom.
And he ends up back at the Annie comes to find him at his former employer after he and Venom drop off some evidence that the Life Foundation is experimenting and killing people with the symbiote experiments. And they go back to the hospital. They use high frequency noise to actually separate Eddie from Venom.
See, that surprised me. I
Yeah.
did not think there was going to be any point in the movie where
they were going to be
get separated. Yeah.
Yeah. And Eddie leaves. I don't remember what happened. He leaves.
Yeah, he leaves.
And he gets tased by Carlton's henchmen. He gets taken to the Life Foundation. Just made me think, that scene where he's talking to Carlton Drake at the Life Foundation, and then he leaves him in that chair. Do we know how he got out of there?
No, shoot. No, yeah, because
I feel like someone helped him. I don't remember.
yeah, it wasn't super important. I think to where.
Oh, they took him out to the forest to look for Venom, I think.
Oh yeah, no, were they
Yeah.
gonna kill him in the woods? Was that they were gonna?
I think they were. Yeah, I don't remember what they were doing.
Because yeah, like the henchmen take him out of the chair and bring him to the woods.
I've only seen it once. It's been a couple days. I've had a couple drinks. My memories maybe starting to fail me a little bit, but after he's interrogated by Carlton Drake, and you first see Carlton Drake as Riot.
The other
he's really, he looks kind of like, he's not as cool as Venom, obviously.
Similar design, but not as cool.
Yeah, similar design, but not as cool, and like he has all these weapons and.
Yeah, he can turn his arms into axes and such.
Yeah. He shoots spikes.
Yeah, you know.
He's basically an alien porcupine.
He's an alien porcupine.
Yeah.
With a lot of CG.
With a lot of CG. Again, it doesn't look bad.
No, it's not amazing.
But in the forest, the henchmen are taken out by She-Venom. For like 2 seconds, you get to see Annie has
the suit.
Has achieved symbiosis with Venom.
Somehow,
and
yeah.
Transfers it back to Eddie by kissing him. And
yeah.
Eddie and Venom, they make out for a brief second in the scene, and like it was fine. I mean, I don't know. It'd be so easy to just pick this scene apart.
Oh yeah.
Did I like it? Not really. Do I care?
It
Not
didn't
really.
ruin the
By
film.
this point in the movie, it was like you.
It wasn't even the worst part of the movie.
It wasn't even
at
the
that
worst
point.
part of
Yeah.
the movie at that point.
So it's like
who
you can
cares?
accept it. Yeah.
We can accept it and move on. But Venom and Eddie are sort of arguing about whether Annie can help them take down Drake, and Annie says like, "Oh, I can fight ugly," and Venom's like, "Yeah, no." So they leave. But this final fight scene involves Annie having to once again activate the sonic,
like the sound frequency.
thing. And it reminded me of in Iron Man 1 when Pepper Potts has to activate the giant generator so they can kill Obadiah Stane or whatever his name was.
Yeah, make his suit stop.
Jeff Bridges. It kind of reminded me of that. I'm not going to say it like copied that because, I mean, all these superhero movies
there's a lot of
off each other in
similarities,
some way or another.
Yeah, it's not, you kind of
maybe not
expect
copied, but they there's all these tropes.
Yeah, they're similar. Yeah, it's tropes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only other thing about this movie, honestly, going into this movie, the R rating thing, people were so bent out of shape about. Oh, it's not rated R. Oh no, like it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, I thought it was gonna suck regardless of the rating. I didn't think an R rating was gonna help it.
It wouldn't necessarily save the film.
I'm man enough to admit I was wrong. There are instances in this movie where I think an R rating definitely would have benefited.
Yeah.
Venom likes to bite people's heads off. You see him like he'll chomp and then it'll cut away.
Yeah.
There's a particularly bad example of a scene where Riot stabs someone with an axe, and I watched it. The guy that he impales, he like pulls out the axe blade and there is no stab wound. It's literally just like the guy he could have been just knocked around, and there needed to be an R rating there. We've been talking about this. I hope I'll buy the movie. Like I will buy the movie at some point, regardless of whether or not this is included. I wouldn't pay full price. I'd probably go like $10.
Sure.
However, if there is an R-rated cut of this movie
released on Blu-ray,
I will buy this movie.
Yeah.
Because I want to support that.
I'd want to see what would be different.
And I want that 30 to 40 minutes of footage that was cut.
Yeah, that Tom Hardy talked about.
So, let's grade it.
Okay, sure.
Let's give like our final kind of summarized thoughts, and then we'll go into the post-credit scenes.
The post-credit scenes, which will be spoilers.
Spoilers. We've spoiled minor aspects of the movie, but like if
nothing major.
If you've seen the trailers, like
pretty much everything we've said has
I
been
don't think
in
we
the
spoiled
trailers.
anything.
Yeah.
Kylo Ren kills Han Solo, his father.
Thanos snaps the gauntlet.
Spider-Man dies. Doctor Strange dies. Black Panther dies, which is racist. It's racist. Thanos, you're a racist.
Thanos is racist.
Falcon dies, racist.
Does War Machine die?
Nobody should have, and that wouldn't have been racist because the character sucks.
So Thanos is like kind of racist.
He's kind of racist.
Like most people.
Like most people. All right. I'm gonna give this movie. I'm debating. I'm between giving this movie a 2 and a 2.5. I wouldn't say I enjoyed half of this movie. I did enjoy this movie. I will watch this movie again. I don't know if I'll see it again in theaters. If someone if a friend wanted to go and invited me, I'd go check it out. I'm gonna go 2 out of 5. I think Tom Hardy did about as good of a job as could have been expected with the script. that they had. I think it was definitely a great casting choice. I think the Venom-Eddie relationship is great. I thought the action, for the most part, is really good. And I want a sequel. Would I be terribly disappointed if they didn't make a sequel to this movie? No, but I want a sequel to this movie.
Yeah.
I want to see what happens, and we'll get more into that in the spoilers section. So Ben, feel free to.
I will also give it a 2 out of 5. I think the tonal inconsistencies, specifically the humor, really was a huge detriment. And I would like to watch the movie again, but not in a theater setting. I think I would enjoy it more with 1 or 2 people, because there were even scenes in the movie where people were laughing at something that was either supposed to be funny or wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was just bad, so they laughed. But there were parts where the audience was laughing so much where I couldn't hear dialogue.
Yeah.
So there were definitely some scenes that I missed some of the stuff at just because of the audience. So I'd like to watch it again, but the tonal inconsistencies, and like Sam said, I don't think any of the actors did a bad job, but I think there was a lot of miscasting. I'm sure there were actors like Michelle Williams. I'm sure there were probably lots of other actresses that could have had that role that would have done just as good a job. But the problems with the film weren't bad enough to make it unwatchable, and the relationship between Eddie and Venom, I think, sets this film apart from all the other superhero movies and makes it worthy of your attention. I think you should see the movie, but I'm still gonna give it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of these movies where it's it's so hard. It's not so hard. It's so easy to rip this movie apart that I feel like it's almost unfair.
It's unfair.
If you go in with reasonable expectations, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, you're not seeing a masterpiece. Don't expect a masterpiece, and then you'll enjoy yourself.
I agree. So now that we've gone ahead and given our ratings, we are going to get into spoilers. We're going to talk about the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene. The post-credit scene is not necessarily spoilers for this movie. I wouldn't even argue it's spoilers for the other movie.
I think just the fact that it exists
just the fact
is
that
somewhat
it exists,
spoilery if you don't know what's coming.
Yeah. But the mid-credit scene is definitely, it's weird to me. I would argue the post-credit scene is almost more interesting because it got me more interested in the movie that it relates to.
Yeah, and
but the mid-credit scene was interesting because it was something that had been rumored if this character was going to show up, what their role was going to be. So we'll talk about this one first because it relates directly to Venom.
Yeah, it's directly to the film, yeah.
So it opens with title scroll. It pans up on San Quentin prison. Eddie is riding his motorcycle around, and he goes in, and he's talking to the security guard. He mentions to Venom when they're riding that this is a me thing, not a we thing. He's like, okay, make it quick. So that's our last Eddie Venom
interaction of the film.
Interaction. But I guess this person requested an interview
with Eddie
Brock, and he mentions at the end of the movie before the credits roll that he scored a huge interview. And the prison guard is talking about how if it was me, I would have just denied this request. And he says if you don't cooperate or something, if you don't identify, if the FBI doesn't identify you, you'll have to cooperate. He goes in and he says, "Red, you have a visitor," and we see he's writing "Hi, Eddie" in blood.
Yeah, in his cell. Yeah.
Which that was creepy, and turns around and it is Woody Harrelson. I am a huge fan of Woody Harrelson.
As am I.
And he's got a red wig on, and
a noticeable red wig. It's long. It's not like a short.
It's a little weird. But he is playing Cletus Cassidy.
Serial killer
Cletus Cassidy, better known in the comics as Carnage.
Another symbiote.
And Woody Harrelson's involvement in the film had been widely reported on.
Yeah, we knew he was in the film.
Many people believed he was playing Carnage. He even said he had a minor role in the film, but that he would play a better part in the sequel. So he's talking to Eddie, and he says he's talking about, let's just forego the whole serial killer thing. I could talk to you about like the logistics of like arterial spray.
Yeah.
And Eddie's like, I'm sure you could. And he basically says, when I get out of here, and I will, there's gonna be carnage. Dun dun dun. And that's the end of the first post-credits scene.
That's it. There's the scene.
There's a scene. I really like Woody Harrelson. I think that's why I'm maybe a little bit biased towards the scene. I think the wig looks kind of silly.
Yeah.
However, as we were talking about after the movie, I feel like if he had just had like straight red hair, he would have kind of looked like Haymitch from Hunger Games.
Yeah, and they don't want.
And I feel like they just kind of wanted to give him a different look. I hope they change it because I think it would look kind of silly and like he almost kind of looked like I almost wish it would have been like the Family Guy bit where it was like it might have been even more serious if it was just Ronald McDonald and he said, when I get out, there's gonna be carnage.
Well, like the wig reminded me of like Carrot Top.
Yeah, he
Like,
does kind of
that's-
look like Carrot Top.
And so I couldn't take him seriously,
Yeah.
which I think is a problem because he's a serial killer. You got
And
to.
I feel like Woody Harrelson was really trying to go for like the crazy route, and I feel like it for me it worked. I liked it. I don't necessarily love it though, and like one of my other friends and I were talking about it. He hates that Woody Harrelson is Cletus Cassidy. I don't know enough about the character to really say one way or the other. I know Woody Harrelson's a damn good actor, so
Yeah,
I don't
he
mind
could.
it.
I think he could pull it off if he's given like enough time.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the problem I had, besides the wig with that scene, I was fully expecting the post credits or the mid credit scene to be something to do with Carnage, and I thought we would get some sort of like connection between Venom and Woody Harrelson's character, because like in the comics, Carnage is like a child or like an offspring of Venom. So I thought that in this scene, Venom at least would even say something to Eddie like, oh, this guy's interesting, or something like that. Just something to show that there is someday going to be a connection between Venom and Cletus Cassidy. But, I mean,
It was a tease.
it was a tease, and you know what? There's worse teases that I've seen. So it's
Yeah, I would say of like the post-credit scenes that have been attached to these movies
in
and,
like the past couple
I would
of years.
say like we both really like the mid-credits and the post-credit scenes of Justice League.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like the last year of post-credit scenes, that post-credit scene for me ranks second behind or third behind those two from Justice League. The second post-credit scene, I knew about both post-credit scenes going into the film. I spoiled a lot of that. I spoiled post-credit scenes for myself almost all the time.
Well, you have to be so careful. Like sometimes, even if you just go on like Instagram
for 2 seconds.
if you're not even like looking for it,
Yeah.
you got to be careful.
But what the second post-credit scene is it's a comic book text
Panel,
box
yeah,
that
text
says
box.
"Meanwhile in Another Spider-Verse," and we get a scene from the upcoming Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
And it's like a full scene.
And it's
like,
a full
it's
scene.
not a
It's
preview. It's a full.
you
like,
could argue it's 2 scenes.
Yeah, I mean,
Because,
yeah.
he's, basically, it opens with Peter,
Actually, yeah,
or
2
not
scenes.
Peter. Sorry,
Miles.
I'm so used to my Peter Parker being a
Spider-Man.
straight white male.
It's different when
Sorry,
someone
man.
else is in the mask.
So we get the first scene, and it's Miles Morales is being
He's a
pursued.
kid. He's a kid.
He's a kid, and he's being pursued. I don't know who he's supposed to be being chased by.
I think it's the Prowler,
Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know. I haven't.
yeah, we don't know because this scene is like taken like this. This is like a scene from like the middle of the movie, and it
Oh yeah.
kind of opens just in the middle of that scene. The
'Cause it's, yeah,
animation,
chase.
the animation of this chase sequence is great. I think the animation looks really cool. I wasn't sold on it from the trailers.
Yeah.
But it looks really good. And then we get a scene. Miles is chased by this person,
This villain
this
character,
villain
masked character, kind of escapes
and
him, right?
he escapes him, and then the next scene is it then goes to he's visiting the grave of Peter Parker
Who died?
but then sneaking up behind him is someone sneaking up behind him, and he says, "Hey kid," and it is the very recognizable voice of Jake Johnson. I like Jake Johnson. I think he's a horrible choice for Peter Parker, but after seeing this clip, I am more open to the idea.
Yeah. I agree.
But like, it's a scene where he zaps Peter Parker with something
On accident, like because Miles can like zap people with his spider powers, but Peter never was able to do that.
And Peter like shoots a web at him.
Yeah.
And
so they both kind of realize like, oh, this other guy is Spider-Man. What is going on?
The cops show up, and there's a great line where it's like, "Kid, put that dead body down."
Yeah, they're
like running.
The cops are chasing Miles, who's now running,
and
with
there's a
Peter
great
Parker.
scene where he's swinging with Peter, and like they're trying to get away from the cops, and it's great. It's
like
awesome.
the animation, the action. It's so visually interesting.
I would give. I'm excited to see the movie. I wouldn't have said it was like huge on my radar going in.
Yeah.
To that post-credit scene, I'm excited to see it. And I didn't watch the newest trailer that's got like Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir,
John
Mulaney, not Gwen Poole,
Spider-Gwen.
Excuse me. The mech spider thing.
Pig Ham,
Spider-Ham, John Mulaney, like that. That's gonna be awesome.
It's a big movie. A lot of cast members.
I was impressed. Both the post-credit scenes I thought were good. I enjoyed both of them. That's about all I have to say on those.
And I think the Carnage one was a really good lead-in to a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, I think it really made me want to see what the sequel... Like, now I want to see what Woody Harrelson can do. And I think the Spider-Verse one was good because it got me excited for the Spider-Verse movie, which I wasn't extremely excited for. So I think both post-credit scenes...
They did their jobs.
Yeah, they did what they were supposed to do. And I mean, what more can you ask for? Because I mean, like we said, in a lot of recent superhero movies, the post-credit scenes are not necessarily bad, but they don't necessarily get you hyped to see more of whatever's coming next. But I think the Venom ones definitely.
They did that.
I'm
gonna cut Avengers a little bit, like the MCU one's a little bit of a break because it's like, with where we're at now in this story, there's not much you can show.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can tease.
You can't really critique them that hard.
Yeah.
I thought the Ant-Man one, I expected that.
It was,
and it was great. I liked it.
It was a good scene, but we all knew that scene was somehow going to be incorporated.
The Avengers one was fine.
Yeah, it was a little surprising, but it was a good idea.
The two Black Panther ones, I wasn't like a huge fan of. No. The mid-credit scene felt like it could have been the end of the movie.
It should have been the end of the film.
And the Bucky one was like, I heard that was originally like they shot like an 8-minute scene.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which I think would have been cool to have seen in
the film.
In Infinity War.
Infinity War, that would have been cool.
It would have fit better. So I was disappointed we didn't get to see that whole thing. But I'm not gonna like critique Marvel too hard on theirs because just where they're at with that story.
It's hard to figure out what to do next.
Yeah, for sure. So this concludes our initial first review for Venom. If you liked it, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, push that notification bell. Sorry. I've seen so many YouTubers do that. I just felt compelled to do it myself. Yeah.
No, it's essential. It's a part of the program. You need to
push that like button, you piece of shit.
You need to push it.
You motherfucker. Say hi to your mother for me. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Have a good day!